right, now we have recording in progress. So, after 30 minutes of catching up, let's get started. Here we have again one of the greatest teacher, great person here talking to you has been really cool. Really chilling time, getting to know more facts about us and all this time that we haven't actually been able to talk. We have you again in the Languages Pedagogy
Hmm.
Podcast. We had a great episode last time, and I still remember the number of listeners. It was crazy. I loved it. I don't
Ah.
know who has more who has more followers, either me or you, but judging by that, I'll
Oh,
say it's
definitely
you.
you.
Crazy, man. That's amazing.
I,
People really
I'm excited to
reacted
be
to it.
here. Thank you so much for having me. Um, I
James.
believe the episode will be called also James. I just quick note about that. James used to be my teacher name because Chinese people could not say the name, but my name is Renzo Perucca. I've actually started using that name again due to recent changes.
Ooh, we're gonna start here. Something's coming. I'm gonna start doing this episode like the trailer or the teaser. So this part I'm gonna put him on the teaser there. New
Go ahead.
changes.
New changes. Exciting
Yes.
changes.
Yeah, sounds a lot better then. So thank you very much, James, for being here. As I just told you the last time, this is your place. Every time that you would like to come and share a little bit of what you've actually learned throughout your years in teaching, it will be more than welcome. A lot of actually
Mm.
new teachers there. They're pretty excited about coming to this kind of crazy career, but also
Hmm.
they don't want to actually just come and encounter, find something that it's a different reality. So I think this episode
You
can
know,
help a little bit more.
this podcast, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't followed all the episodes, but what I really like is it's a great place for people to discuss theory and practice. Not
Mm,
everybody has the chance to talk to other teachers and be able to discuss what we have learned either in college or through training and see that applied into what we do every day. I think that's very valuable, and that's something that you can't see everywhere. So that's why I'm so happy to be here. And when you told me about the topic, I was like, I am so ready for this.
And well, this time we're gonna have actually the two episodes, one audio episode
Hmm.
and the video episode. So why don't we
Mm.
just give a warm welcome to this little companion that you have over there? That little girl.
Yeah,
Introduce
this
her
is
maybe
Meadow.
to the people.
This is Meadow. She's a Tianyuan Chuan, which is a fancy word for a Chinese pastoral dog. She's a rescue. She's very smart. She loves chicken, and she's super chill. She's so chill. We let her free roam. She's properly trained. She communicates very well for a dog that
Is it
doesn't
trilingual?
really barely barks. But she'll let us know
Trilingual.
when she wants to play or when she wants to go to the bathroom.
So she understands Chinese, Spanish, and English.
Well, Chinese people find it fascinating that she doesn't understand Chinese. So, like for example, they say "过来," and
Mhm.
she's like, "Nah, brother, that's not my language." So, but if I say "come," then she'll come right away.
It would be really
And
cool actually
she,
to know what she thinks when somebody just tells her "Kola, kola, kola." That was
yeah, no, and
cool.
also she doesn't like people very much. She usually shies away from them, except for a few chosen ones.
Mhm.
But yeah, she's very well trained.
That's pretty good, pretty good. So, thank you very much, James, again for being here with us. Today's episode is embracing cognitive load, optimizing
Mm.
your brain for new languages.
Hmm.
What a topic! What a topic! Would you like to start saying something about it? You got any ideas about it to start with?
So, so again, the beautiful part about being able, go ahead, baby, go. The beautiful part about being able to discuss theory and practice is that many of us don't really know certain concepts about teaching, or I guess the psychological part of learning a language. We don't know it by
Exactly.
name. I spent many years without, let's say that I graduated, and then for 10, 12 years, I didn't really upgrade my learning styles except for a couple of TOEFL courses, which are not they're not that revealing. But when I started my master's program at UOP, I basically learned that a lot of what I knew by practice has a name. With cognitive load, it's difficult to put it into perspective, but basically it's how much effort it takes you to engage in a language, or that's the what we're talking about today.
Exactly. You got it. Exactly. You put them in a few words, the whole concept there. Exactly. This is one of the things that we're gonna be talking today because I think it hits hard because right now the educational system, even though we're in different countries, we still actually get to know that the system is quite the same everywhere. And we have cognitive load pretty much now. Everything must be easy, instant gratification, and a whole bunch of things right now.
Mm,
And I think this is part of it as well. The psychological perspective behind also.
yeah, there might be. I mean, everything is connected, but I think one of the main issues is tolerance to frustration has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
Um, let's just give an example of this. So with cognitive load, when we talk about this, or how it impairs you when you're talking, there are internal factors, external factors that affect how you perform a task. So if this is like, for example, a
Mhm.
spoken test or let's say an interview, depending on how important you see the task, will give you an extra load. So this actually becomes a burden. This becomes a burden on you at the moment in which you're speaking or you're doing a test. There are also external factors that could be, for example, how well designed is the test that you're taking,
Exactly.
or how easy is it to understand someone. As an anecdote, I remember taking the Cambridge Advanced English Examination, the CAE,
CAE.
on the last year, basically my last year in college. And
Yeah.
nobody took it seriously, honestly. People were doing their thing, we were working on our thesis, but we had to take it. We didn't really have to have a good grade to graduate, but we had to take it. And I recall that for the most part, it wasn't that difficult, but I do recall that the listening section was some Irish lady
Oh,
talking about something that was
beautiful.
nobody's knowledge, basically. And it sounded like ta 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 ta, and in unison, everybody in the room, which was a big room full of a lot of people, they were like, "What?" Nobody could understand anything. That extra level of decoding somebody's accent, or in this case, because the I guess the speakers were not very good, they give you an extra load. That means it makes
Yes.
that task extra difficult. And that effort, that extra effort that you're putting into trying to decode this message is what we call cognitive load.
Exactly. Well, you got it. Yeah. And this is one of the things that I would like to add to what you're saying now. Because not everybody actually know about this cognitive load. Not
Mm,
even some of the teachers, the new teachers especially. Because some of them they actually say that cognitive load is the same as being weak or same as weakness.
okay.
So, which actually I do not share that perception at all. But I've heard teachers saying that cognitive load is not it is a weakness.
No, I don't think anyone would agree with that statement, but I think it's fair to say that cognitive load is or I guess being able to deal with cognitive load is a skill because it is a type of stress.
Like a sub skill.
Yeah, well, and when you were talking about instant gratification and how people, well, I mean, there's not really a connection that we have established yet, but I do believe that newer generations or younger generations have less tolerance to stress,
Yes,
to frustration.
agree.
And I've seen this in Chinese kids. I also recall my teaching years when I used to teach at Universidad Católica, and I had my students. They would give up, or in the case of kids, they would cry, or they would get really, really frustrated. This has to do with it, But unfortunately, it's one of those psychological things that teachers we can help them, but it's sad to say that it's not really our job. We can tell them, hey, this is just a test. Yes, grades are important, but it's not a life or death
True.
situation. But it's diffusing a bomb. You can't be expected to understand that everybody has different levels of stress. You can have, I guess, that kind of vibe in your class to be disarming.
True. You know, that's the other point. I mean, I don't understand why right now the situation just takes us to a point where the psychological aspects are the main points right now. No, that reminds me of one of these. I don't know if you've heard about Ricky Gervais. He's got this
Hmm.
type of a
Love
stand-up
him.
comedy. Oh
Oh, I
man,
love him.
he was actually talking about a little bit about this in one of his stand-ups, and he says something like, "Everybody's ADHD. Everybody's doing this. Everybody has this. Everybody has this problem." And it's true. I mean, now it seems like everybody has the problem about the cognitive load, that it's because of, oh, I cannot do it. I'm too weak to do it. I cannot do it. I think this is too much stress for me. So, and they start like putting a lot of pressure just because they want to get to a certain score. And in
Hmm.
the end, it gets to a failure, I would say. What do you think about it?
Well, that's the thing is with failure, that's a different topic altogether. They're very related, but they're not exactly the same.
Hmm.
So, I the going back to Ricky Gervais, the thing about everybody being ADHD, it
Yes,
has some truth to it. I mean, we have seen videos of how grandmas used to collect spoons, silver spoons, and then everything was collectible. People who collected bottle caps, and it was just a hobby, but it could also be an indication of being compulsive, I guess.
exactly. Yes,
Leaving that aside, because again, it's very difficult to analyze it case by case, but I would just say that the problem with cognitive load is that it affects another kind of theory that I abide by, which is language ego. The person that you are, well, I think we did talk about this last time. I probably did because I always bring
yes.
it up.
You make a reference. You made a reference about it.
Right. So for those who may not have heard that episode, maybe they're not familiar with it. Language ego is the theory that you basically are another person when you speak another language. And this goes from not only the confidence that you portray when you're speaking, but also even your voice. And it's a funny thing because right now I'm speaking English and I speak English so often that it's my main language. But when I believe I told you before with the recording, I was
Yeah,
talking to some clients from Mexico yesterday, and I also had to translate during the meetings. And I told them, folks, I have to apologize, but I forget words in Spanish because I barely use it anymore. And
true.
we had a lot of those instances. So that is also part of language ego. And the person that you want to be when you learn a new language is very connected to your cognitive load because it's exhausting. It's
It is.
exhausting trying to be the same person that you are in three different languages. How do you feel about
Well,
that?
exactly. Yeah, that actually takes us to multilingualism. We can actually bring a lot of
Mm,
topics here. Yeah, multilingualism is part of it. So, in one of the episodes before as well, I was talking to this other teacher. Um, we were talking about how much you change when you learn a new language.
hmm.
Who are you when you speak Spanish? How do you feel? How do you consider yourself when you speak Spanish? And she said that she felt like a Latina, and she was like even dancing like in
Hmm.
all the way like a Latina does and all that. But when she started speaking English, she started like being a little bit more serious, straightforward, or something like it. So
Hmm.
that's part of it. Now, coming back a little bit to this one, so is mental overload a failure or a necessary stage of learning?
Neither. It's just there are too many extrinsic factors to mental overload. First of all, this failure is part of learning. So, I mean, let's just get that out of the way. failure is part of learning, and we need to, as educators, we need to address that and tell our students that it is part of it. You cannot be expected to be good at it immediately. And we also need to let them know that the effort that you put into learning matters, but there are a lot of idiosyncrasies, part of who you are, that affects language learning. You know, if you have a parent that speaks more than one language, they can probably help you decode language learning. That's part of who you are. So even if you put a lot of effort, you could also fail. Once again, leaving aside the idea that it could be failure, mental overload is absolutely real. It happens a lot with code switch, which is when we change from one language to another. Like for example, right now I'm
Yes.
speaking English, pero si cambio y me pongo a hablar español, español chileno, cambia la forma en la que yo hablo. It
Even the
basically,
sound.
I just said it changes. Yeah, for you, you're like, oh, I probably sound different. So it's an effort. It's an effort. And like many things that require a lot of effort, you can develop it. It becomes easier the more you do it. But at some point, if you had a rough morning, or if you didn't have your cup of coffee, or you've been in a meeting for 3 hours, or you've been teaching for 6 hours, switching that language or trying to speak the language that you want to speak will become much more difficult.
Yeah. So learning feels hardest right before consolidation. Do you agree with that one?
Once again,
Learning feels hardest right before consolidation.
and by consolidation, you mean?
Consolidate what you're learning in that case, that you're learning that.
Well,
Consolidating the
if you put that on
language.
a timeline, then um depends. I don't necessarily see the connection between before consolidation. You're talking about cognitive load?
Yes.
Well, I guess
I
it
think
depends
that's
on
one
the
of the
kind of task
facts.
you're doing.
That's one of
Uh,
the facts. Remember the book that I sent you today? Um,
mhm,
Before actually preparing this topic that I got a little bit I got really excited about this topic because I was actually reading that book. That book took
mhm.
me to to this part. And it says something like learning feels hardest right before consolidation. That is one of the phrases that I take from there. In this overload, in this mental overload. So what happens is it takes us actually to the psychological part.
Hmm.
You got the students who actually is struggling to learn something, but when it's easy to learn, they believe, okay, it's too easy, so okay, no mental overload. But that doesn't mean that the student is learning. That's why learning
Okay.
feels hardest right before consolidation. That means it takes us it takes us into a really hard part. I mean, it takes us a lot of effort to learn when it's very difficult. And that is when the learning or what you're learning is consolidating. In the end, it will stay with you longer.
Okay. I see your learning theory and I raise you another learning theory.
Hmm.
What you're saying that it feels hardest right before consolidation. Ah, I cannot find the name for the theory, but basically, what you know in one language
Hmm.
is your comfort zone.
Yeah,
And then there's the I believe it's the anxiety zone. It's actually called anxiety zone. So
anxiety. Yeah.
if you want to Google this later, if anyone wants to Google this later, remember comfort zone and anxiety zone in learning. Okay, just use those words and you'll get there because I don't remember the name of theory, but it is very connected to what we're talking about because, like for example, in Chinese, I can handle a couple of conversations. It's very limited. But once again, if you take me fishing, my anxiety zone is going to spike up because I don't have the vocabulary for that. Now, this area in which you're trying something new, or in this case, in the case of learning, let's say that you're performing a task and you're not sure if you know it, this is what we call the anxiety zone. That theory that I've forgotten the name, but basically it says that if you have an expert, uh, let's call it assistant, somebody who has that information who can help you, you can leave that anxiety zone. This could be a teacher. This could also be somebody who is
Yes,
more somebody who is better at the languages, which is why normally in classes we pair someone who is not as good as the average with somebody who's very advanced, because precisely because that person who has more knowledge can help you pull that one who is lagging behind from that anxiety zone. So it is connected to what you're saying in terms of like where exactly you feel the most stressed out.
exactly. But it is part of this. It is part of this cognitive load because whenever you have this pressure, this mental pressure, it actually takes you to that part. But when you don't have that effort, it's totally effortless. The learning that you think you're learning, but in the end, you're not learning. There's no cognitive overload there. So does that
Okay.
mean you will be learning? So if there's
Oh,
no cognitive overload,
mhm.
there's no learning because they're not the struggle part.
Not
Okay.
sure I can agree with that. Not sure I can agree with that. I don't think cognitive load or overload is necessary to language learning. You can definitely learn with if something is relevant, something is difficult, but the idea of cognitive load theory is that there are internal and external factors, but I wouldn't necessarily say that these factors need to be present for you to be able to learn.
But
Then
they
again,
might
the theory
become actually part
that
of
I
it.
learned is about performance. Sorry?
It might be actually part of it as well. Not
How so?
fully, but might be part of it.
But how? The because okay, so let me give you another part of cognitive load theory.
Go ahead.
Foreign language anxiety,
Mhm.
which is woven into what we already mentioned about language ego. When you learn another language, you are predisposed to feeling anxious, right? So
True.
these beliefs, these behaviors are related to language learning. Everything that you have, everything that you bring into learning a new language. So if a task requires listening or speaking, then you already have another load present in that task. But again, how or why would you say that that's necessary to learning?
Because maybe when you learn more, maybe you learn more when you are on the brink of failure or not knowing. So you're like, no, hold on a second. If I put you just right against the wall, you start like thinking pretty fast what's gonna be the next move. And that will internalize what you're learning. Maybe.
I think what the connection that I could make is that, and this goes to both our students and ourselves,
Yeah.
whenever you struggle a lot with learning something and then you finally get it, that eureka moment, that
Yeah,
moment when you're
exactly.
like, oh, yes, now I get it,
Yes. Eureka moment.
those become absolute gold.
Yeah.
That I can absolutely agree.
Eureka. Exactly. That's
Hmm.
what I just wanted to hear. Because that's the part of it. That's the eureka moment. To me, it's also the part of the learning where you really actually learn something, it will stay with you forever. That's the one that will stay in the long-term memory.
Right. There are other factors like, for example, relevance,
True.
frequency. Relevance and frequency are honestly the best way to consolidate something into to memory.
Mhm.
Relevance and frequency, because you can learn a lot of things and you can have a eureka moment, but if that's not something that you're going to be applying in your everyday life, or at least once every 6 months, then most likely that's going to go away, especially the
Exactly.
more languages that you learn.
Now that you were actually checking on this cognitive load, did you actually get to find something related to working memory versus long-term memory?
It affects working memory. It's
Hmm.
a disruption of working memory. The amount of stress that you are put in when you're given a task that is difficult because it's poorly designed, or because it's difficult because, let's say, for example, the audio quality is not great,
Yeah.
your that stress interferes with your ability to recall information. That's what I found in the study.
Mm, that's a really
So
good
it's
one.
very interesting that uh if you want to look at, for example, the type of students that we have, at least in China, it's very normal that most of them are extremely uh, guided towards perfect accuracy with absolutely no fluency. So then you will have students who are like, my mm, home ha has
Yeah.
two dogs, and they will
Yes.
they will cook for hours to get that sentence. But then there are also students who prefer fluency over accuracy, and they will make a lot of mistakes, but that's kind of okay. That's also connected to this ability because they don't feel anxious. You
Exactly.
know, the ones that speak a lot and they speak very fast, they don't care about making mistakes. They are making
Yeah.
mistakes, but they're
And they're
also
aware of
communicating
it.
very well. Most likely, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say.
Well, I like the example actually you're taking here about Chinese students because they must be the best example actually about cognitive overload.
Yeah. Mm,
They
let's
are a
go there.
great example. So we have these students actually in China where they have to sit down from like 7:30 a.m. in the morning until 11:30 p.m. That's the time
Hmm.
they're going to sleep. And they have this type of a problem that it's called mother. And they have to and they have to be
Wow,
like
I didn't think you were gonna go there.
man, it's reality. I say it's mother. Why is that? Why do I say that? Because mothers are the ones that actually make them get to the point of cognitive overload, and they don't care. You gotta just go and do what you gotta do, and that's it. Don't you agree with it?
Unfortunately, look, as much as I want to avoid sexism in a conversation about research, my experience with students, mothers in China, let's just say the word smother, the S is silent. It's horrible. I have to apologize if that sounds horribly sexist, but once again, we're talking from experience. And I
True.
wanted to bring that up because precisely good intentions can lead to horrible situations. And I
Definitely.
want to talk about a student. I don't think she will be listening to this because she's Chinese, but I hope she does because she's a very interesting case in which her mom tried her best to challenge her to learn more. And she has succeeded tremendously. I actually did speak to her mom about this, and I told her, hey, a lot of parents are like you, and you're lucky that she was able to continue learning despite all the stress,
Yeah.
because many of them become absolutely petrified when they have to speak. Many of them, because of this extra load of stress, of foreign language anxiety, they refuse to speak.
Yes.
My student is doing amazingly. I see her every Saturday. Precisely because she's so shy, I have a colleague of mine join me in the class so she can be like just uh, between an assistant, and also she provides strategies on to how to decode English into Chinese. But it's
True.
mainly because she's also super shy. So if I have the class with her, she will most likely not speak as much as if she's with my coworker.
Got it. Well, and it might sound bad, a little bit like extreme about the moms and all that. But what sounds extreme here might sound like a lot better in the other side of the world. Because on the other side of the world, we have total the opposite.
Okay, let's put a name to that. I mean, what would be the total opposite?
It would be like, hmm, too much psychology to cover up the failures of most of the students. And I gotta use the word failures.
Oh man, I don't really want to focus on the failure, but because it's so personal. It's so so personal for me to be discussing something general,
I
but I
mean,
can talk about the cultural differences for sure
it
if you
is
want to
part
go
of
there.
it. Yeah,
I would argue that again, my problem is that I'm on this side of the world, so I have not seen what parenting looks like in my country. But I can take, for example, the I guess kind parenting that my sister is trying. My sister has two daughters, and it's going really well. Um, they understand consequences. I have yet to see how they would deal with a stressful situation, especially under cognitive load.
yeah.
I think they will because they're coming to China. I'm super excited. I'm really excited to see. You know what? I miss them. I don't get to see them very much. I did go to Chile a couple of years ago, but I'm very interested in seeing how they deal with everyday life on a psychological level. And I'm hoping that uh, they will do okay with stress because it's part of life.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's totally different, and I'm actually bringing this not because I want to actually focus on the on the bad things on the other side of the world, but definitely to put on a contrast what we have here in China and what we can actually have back in the West. Because yes, we have actually another extreme here, but of course we got the other extreme there. The extreme here, we just talk about it, and this overload, this cognitive overload comes actually because of the pressure of parents, school, the system. So much pressure.
I mean, yeah, parenting is one thing, and for those who may not be aware, the Gaokao is the university entrance examination in China, and it's extremely difficult. I am not sure if English is still part of it because there have been some changes recently.
Not anymore, I heard.
Okay, but even still, English is considered a 21st century skill or language, actually. So people are still investing a lot of money into learning English, which is why they are so academically oriented. And even though they don't have to do that in the Gaokao, they still have to learn it in schools, and it's very, very difficult for them because they have a lot of high expectations. Parents do, the system does.
True.
You could
And
not say the same about Chile. I don't want to dismiss anyone's efforts by saying this, but comparatively, it it's not the same. It's just not.
definitely. I mean, what we're trying actually to say here, and I don't want to actually sound like we're being, I don't know, too negative or too competitive from one side to the other one, but it's actually just to put them into perspective, the differences in the educational system, in how actually education is actually seen in this side of the world, different from the other side. Not in a negative part saying, hey, they are bad and these ones are good. I mean, there's a difference in the system, but also there are a lot of things that are in common, we have in common. Just to keep it clear, because definitely there might be actually people who say, "Oh, this is too much, it's going too far." But no, it's not about that. Now, this part that I would like to ask about is the cognitive load theory. There's a division there. There's like it's divided into three parts,
Mm,
right? We have the intrinsic, the germane, and the extraneous, right?
hmm
Correct me if
External,
I'm.
internal, and germane.
Yeah, yeah.
Germane is the one that is connected to language learning per se.
Mm, got it. So which one is the useful one? That it's like kind of the useful struggle, because
I
these
would
ones were
argue
like
that
task difficulty, bad instruction, and the other one would be the useful struggle. That's how I was
I,
actually just reading it. I don't remember pretty well. Help me out with this.
I did read it like this in terms of the study that I read does not really say whether it's good or not, actually. I would argue that it's not, that struggle is not necessary to language learning. I do think it makes moments of eureka moments more valuable and more memorable. But I would argue that the germane factor, because we talk about it external, internal, and there's also germane.
The
The
Jermaine,
name
yeah.
is right.
The
That's
useful
that's the name
struggle.
is
That's the one I think it is.
right. I would agree with that. That's the use because that's the one that it's not about whether the task is difficult or whether the sound quality is bad, but it's more like it's a metalinguistic thing. So you're
Hmm.
struggling to make it make sense. And that's why I would argue that it is productive.